Hello again. My name is Jennifer Walls. I am fighting a miserable cold right now, so bear with me. I'm losing my voice, and I've been out on the rain all day out in the rain, and it even just made me feel more miserable. So this is my week 2 of Gen Talk. I'm sorry I'm not feeling up for cheesy music, but this is for the vascular system. So let's begin with, okay. This is, of course, all where my images came from. So I have my arteries and head of the veins over here, and my arteries and veins of the upper and lower limbs, and then my vascular system image that of course, I'll be repeating using throughout the presentation. Okay. So first, let's begin with, I'm trying to get this all in the picture, so bear with me. Okay, so I just wanted to give a brief description of kind of how the arteries and the veins actually come together. So it starts with your larger portion of the artery, and this image I do not have to give credit to because it's me. And I know it looks like fourth grader, but it is what it is. So I have my artery up here. It does go down. It's red because it is the oxygenated blood. It actually comes down to a little bit thinner down here, and that's called the arteriole. And then that actually comes even smaller, and the smallest of the smallest are the capillaries. And that's kind of like the web that connects the atrials and the ventricles together. But those are going to be your tiniest. And then of course it opens up into your ventricles, and then it too goes into your vein, which is going to be your deoxygenated blood. So wherever it goes throughout the body, the head, the upper, lower limbs, and the abdominal, it's all going to start with the arteries. It's going to go down to the atrials. It's going to pass through the capillaries. It's going to become deoxygenated throughout all of this process, coming through the ventricles. I'm sorry, the ventricles, and going up into the veins. So that's kind of how everything connects. Okay, so we can see this. So let's kind of start where, last week we talked about the heart and everything starting, and then it's coming out of the arch of the aorta. So there's 3 little branches, and I like how everything is kind of mentioned in mentioning a trunk. So everything kind of has its branches. So this one does have the 3 different branches coming out of the arc of the aorta. So you have your brachiocephalic, and then we have your artery, and then your left common carotid artery, and then your left subclavian. So your left subclavian is going to be taking care of all of the upper limbs on, your upper extremities. Your left common carotid is going to go up into your neck and spine. Your neck and head. I'm telling you, I'm on a lot of cough medicine. And then your brachial centrifugal is, and your brachial cephalic is going to be over on your right-hand side. I'm just going to continue kind of with the aorta. So you have your arc, and then we're going to start going down. So it's going to be the descending thoracic aorta, and that's actually done into 2 different branches. Whoops. So you have your paratella, and that's going to take care of the posterior intercostal, the subcostal, and the superior phrenic, and that's going to be on top of the diaphragm. And then your vesicaral is going to take care of your esophagus, your lumbrical, and your pericardial. I'm telling you, I'm awful with these words. Okay, so that's going to be going down, and then we are going into the abdominal aorta, and that's going to be, of course, on the inferior part of the heart itself. Let me try to get about that. And again, it still has the 2 branches. Okay, so over here, it's going to be coming down through here, and it's going to have your suprarenal. The renals was is going to be for the kidneys, and then your gonadal, and those are going to be for the sex organs. And then on this side, for your parietal, it's going to be your inferior phrenic, your lumbar, and your mid-sacral. So that's going to be going down. Okay. And then because we're, so now kind of let's jump back up. So let's just jump back up because now we're going to talk about, we've talked about the arc of the aorta, and then we talked about the descending and then the abdominal, but let's just jump back up to the arc of the aorta, because that's going to start with the left common carotid, and then it's going to go all the way up. It's going to start here. So your subclavian artery is over here, and then we have your common carotid artery over here, and that's going to be the thick one, and that's going to be taking everything pretty much into the cranial part of it, and then of course we have the branches that go off. So, whoops. We have the vertebrae one, then that's going to be deep right over here. We have the interior carotid, that's going to be way over here. And then, I'm sorry, yes, the interior one is going to be more in the midline, and then your exterior is going to be over here. You have your superior thyroid. Of course, that's going to supply oxygenated blood to the thyroid. And then we have your lingual. That's going to be supplying over to your larynx. We have your inferior labial and your superior labial, and that's going to be your lips. And then, of course, the facial artery. That's going to be kind of right in through here. It's going to connect everything. We have your nasal. We have the apithecal artery, and that, of course, that's for your vision. And we also have the superficial temporal artery and the occipital artery. And so I always remember the superficial temporal artery because I swear my dad was mad when I was a kid because he was bald, and that was the only artery that I swear I saw bulging. So that's when I always knew my dad was mad, was the superficial temporal artery. So that's a little fun fact for Jen. Kind of moving all the way up, which is like the coolest thing ever because I saw it this week when I was doing an autopsy embalming. And I'm telling you, so all these 9 arteries come up. You have your right and left internal carotid. You have your anterior communicating artery. You have your right and left. Whoops, let me try to get it all in there. When they all meet right up in here, it's called the circle of Willis. So basically that has your 9 arteries. I know when you're doing a full cranial embalming with an autopsy, you actually have to clamp all of these arteries off. And it was actually really exciting to see, just because, you know, I've been learning about it, and it was just really, it was interesting to see it, I guess, I want to say, in a tangible thing instead of just kind of reading about it. It was really neat. I kind of geeked out a little bit. So let's go ahead and talk about the veins of the head, since we're already in the head. So the veins are going to basically run pretty much the same way as the arteries. We're going to have the subclavian vein over here. We have the brachial cephalic one over here. The internal jugular over here, and that's going to be that one. And that's your external jugular. So this one over here is going to be the one that you raise actually with the common carotid artery when you're trying to do the 1-point injection with the embalming. You have your vertebrae, your vertebral vein, and it runs just parallel to the vertebral artery. We also have the posterior, I'm going to totally massacre this, echiral, and that's going to be right over here. We have the maxillary right over here, and we have the facial over here. And remember that when I was telling you that my dad, that artery, so it needs a vein, so that one was a superficial temporal vein. So I'm sure when he was mad, they were both going. They were connecting with the capillaries, remember, because that's what connects everything. So we're going to go ahead and move it right into the arteries going into the upper extremities. So this is going to be coming, of course, out of the arc of the aorta in the brachiocephaly. It's going to go down to your auxiliary, which is actually located in your armpit. That's kind of an easy find over here. And what I did find out, because I was embalming and I had to raise that one, it's very, very superficial as well. It also has your brachial artery. So your auxiliary one goes right into your brachial artery. And then you have your anterior and posterior over here. The circumflex is kind of right here. So that brachial artery kind of branches out into your radial, which is going to be on your thumb side over here. And then your ulnar, which is going to be on the pinky side over here. Both of those branch all the way down. Notice how the thumb is out this way. So you have your deep palmar, and then your superficial palmar, and then your digital arteries. And I was trying to look on my hand, and I was trying to see if I could see the arteries. I don't know if I see them. I think I see veins, but that's where we are. But that's kind of where they are. I have raised the radial artery, and that's superficial as well. The brachial is going to be a little bit deeper. And since we're talking about the upper extremities, we're just going to go ahead and hit the veins as well. So again, a lot of the veins are going to share the same names as the arteries. So we have our axillary vein. This one out here that kind of branches way out is the cephalic, way out here. But then the main one over here is going to be your brachial vein. And then this medium cubital, that is actually going to be where they draw blood. So that one obviously is really easy to see it there. I hate giving blood, so I'm always like the one to look away. But that one's the median cubicle. The cubitor is going to be the vein that's going to hit right here. And again, then it goes right into the, on the upside, it's going to go into the brachial, going to that cephalic is going to be way out here, and then it's going back into the our auxiliary. So moving down to the lower extremities. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, whoops, wait a minute. Okay. So everything's going to branch from the abdominal, excuse me, on the abdominal aorta. It's going to go over into your right common iliac, and then it's going to be your external iliac, and then your internal iliac is going to be that one really kind of hidden right in there. But your main one is going to be the iliac, and then of course it's going to go down. It's going to go into your femoral, and your deep femoral is going to be way down in here. But the femoral one is going to be the one that you raise. And an easy way to find it is you kind of do like a little V right here, and right in between you'll feel kind of this like a raised area, and you just, man, you take your scalpel and go right in there. And so actually finding the femoral is one of the easiest arteries to find. for me it was just because even though it's a deeper artery, it was just so easy to find rather than some of the other ones. I mean, besides the superficial ones, I was excited to find that one. And again, it's going to come, that femoral is going to be running deep. You have your popliteal, which is basically your knee, right in through your knee. The anterior tibial that's the one artery, and you can see the vein as well, kind of like looking down at your tibial bone. You can, I mean, those just like stand out. But that's actually really easy to find because it just goes right along the top of that bone. That's going to be the anterior. And then you have your posterior, posterior tibial, and that's going to be in the back of your leg. And then you have your peroneal right over, kind of right in there. And then, of course, your dorsalis pedis over here, and that's going to be kind of on the inside of your ankle. And then, of course, your digital arteries as well. And then we're going to go ahead and name out the veins for the lower extremities. And so we might as well just start from the bottom because that's where they connect from the capillaries and the venules. And we're going to have your dorsalis pedis vein. And again, it's going to go straight back up. You have your anterior tibial and then your posterior tibial. And again, that anterior one just runs right along that bone, and the posterior is going to be in the back. And then your popliteal is going to be your knee. Of course, you have your femoral, but this one over here is the great Cephenius, and that's going to be kind of right in here. I've never raised that one, but I have raised the femoral vein, of course, because I always raise the femoral artery. And again, your external and your internal iliac, and then going right up into your common. And remember, I was telling you about me doing the autopsy today, and it was not today, but earlier this week. It was so neat and interesting because when the body was actually open, you could see the iliacs, and you could see like the tubes. And they were so very easy to see, and they looked completely different than raising an artery. When you raise an artery and a vein, they're a little bit flatter, but seeing them in an autopsy, they were just like these open tubes, and I was like totally fascinated with it because I got to really see the body, kind of everything that we've learned about. So, everything that we've learned about. So, I know it's a little bit later turning this in, but it's been a great week. I've learned so much, and actually the autopsy kind of came at the perfect time because I got to really see everything that I've just studied. So thank you so much, and until next time, bye.